Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, or whatever time zone it is, wherever you are in the world. It is your Lore Saviour, albeit a very sleepy one. On this drizzly Saturday morning, I'm going to tell you about a game that I ran last night on the 27th of October 2023 in the year of our Lord Talos, that I had very little planning to do. Or rather, I actually did very little planning because I left things rather last minute. But what do I mean by all of this? Well, you might have seen recently that I've been posting a lot about BORG or MÖRK, depending on who you ask. And I had the opportunity to run a game of BORG at my local game store. You know, they've got like some event thing going on for Halloween, and I decided I was going to run some BORG there, and it's really beginning to piss it down now. I love it. I love dog walking in the rain. But yeah, so I was going to run this game for 5 people. I was going to run one of their semi-official modules, the Goblin Grinder. I say semi-official because it's part of FERETORY, HERETIC FERETORY. That's basically just filled with a lot of fan stuff, and Stockholm Cartel, the people who make it, approved it, and then they bundled the whole lot together, and then they ship it off together, which I think is really, really cool. They're really awesome with their license anyway. Anybody can do anything with their license, providing they just say, this is not an official BORG supplement, blah blah blah. No license to be paid, is kind of open source really. Pirate BORG is one of those examples, by the way. Anyway, so I was going to run BORG, going to run the Goblin Grinder, and it was on my way to the game store via taxi, and I was just thinking about the session. I actually hadn't given that much thought to it. I was just far as, I'm going to run the Goblin Grinder, that'll be easy. It was, admittedly, but I ended up doing a lot of improvising, because I checked at the store to see how many people were actually turning up, because the store did a thing on their Facebook page, you know, you can make like an event page, and it tells you who's interested and who's going. And it said that only 3 were going, and I was one of those 3, so I just double checked with the person at the shop, and they informed me that it was 2 out of the 5 people. I was like, okay, so the Goblin Grinder is obviously going to have a bit of fighting in it because it's BORG. So I cut down a lot of that, and I made it a lot more investigative. It was also interesting because the 2 players that arrived, one of them was somebody that I played at the free RPG event early this year. I did a whole vlog documentary of that, which you can find in the description below. It was Vampire the Masquerade, using my module, Ghost in the Chassis, which you can also find in the description below if you want to run that yourself. So it was that person and their dad, which I thought was a really interesting combo, really sweet as well. And the 3 of us had lots of bants. But what is the Goblin Grinder? Well, in the city of Gellenbeck, it's infestated with goblins. Somebody's come along, supposedly with a cure, and you basically have to put it to a stop to this. And the players quickly worked out, okay, there's something up with this person who's selling this goblin curse cure, and the thing with goblins in BORG, that if you get hit, or rather you are attacked by a goblin, whether it hits or not, you turn into a goblin in so many days' time, which is decided by a dice roll. Yeah, they just had lots of fun with it. I just love how much they just got into the setting and really went into the more investigative route of things. Because really the Goblin Grinder, and this is where a lot of the improvisation came in that it doesn't actually give you a lot to work with. It gives you the setup, which is what I just explained. It provides the key characters, Nagel, Krat, Cog, and like the main boss goblin, the Bastard. And I'm not kidding, that's actually the name. You can actually see them pop up now. But they did a lot of investigative. One character was classless. The other one was one of the ones from HERETIC for FERETORY, the prophetic god or something like that. I can't remember the exact word, and again, you'll find it here. But yeah, it was just so much fun to do, and as I said, it doesn't give you that much. It gives you the setup, the characters, and it gives you the layout of a windmill where the goblin grinding machine is. I won't give too much away in case you want to run this for yourself. So where did actually the improv came in if you seem to have a handle on things? Well, you don't actually need that much to run it, because when you're presented with the setup that somebody's just arrived in town with a cure, the players are going to naturally investigate this, and they're going to immediately suss, okay, somebody has a cure and yet there's still this problem going on. You know, players are going to ask where the goblins are coming from. This game master can just literally come up with anything. Like, as I did, they're coming up in people's basements, they're coming from outside the city walls. Like, you then just make up stuff to make them run amok, basically, because players are going to investigate any and everything. Like, they interviewed one person they found at a tavern, which again I made up, in like the mid-morning. And I was just saying, oh, this is probably this person. I was just thinking, okay, this person's probably like a commoner. He's in a poor part of the city, which is something I described earlier on. And they're probably not going to have access to nice features like some of the richer, like the noble who hired them, which is a prompt that the Goblin Grinder gives you. I was on about in the market, this, that, and I mentioned that they're like washing their clothes out in the river, because that's what I imagine would happen. And the players latched onto that. Like, they thought that was a little weird or whatever. I don't think it was weird, but they just like, that was the thing that stuck out to them. So then I made them go outside. They had a fight with a goblin and they nearly died. So then they actually were even more secretive about what they were doing. Then the player who was the prophet sort of character decided that they were going to, once they had all worked out what was going on, they interviewed somebody who was carrying all these bodies, Karg, who could only be forced through money. That individual got a very high score, like 23, so I've had them basically reveal everything to the characters with that. Because Karg isn't very loyal to Krat anyway. They incited a mob between them, burned down the windmill, and which, there's a slight spoiler here, inside the windmill the goblins have got a cannon. Took out a large part of their mob. Between them they managed to kill a goblin, have the cannon like fire within the structure of the windmill and bring everything down. And because I wanted to use the bastard in like one final fight, I had the players, I do a little fight with them, and the prophet character again got a nat 20 on using their scroll on suffocation, whatever it's called, and I just decided with everything that happened, I'm being attacked by raindrops here, I decided that with the nat 20 and everything that happened, like falling from 3 stories, that would kill them, because they didn't have much health left to begin with. And you might be thinking, well, what did this other player do? As it seems to be the prophet with all the spotlight here. They had more fun killing all the goblins, which is great. They had lots of fun rolling up all the different like character traits, things that really just built their character up, which is awesome. And that's something I really like about MÖRK BORG, is that there are lots of customization with it, and lots of randomness and chaos, and even though it's very dark and it's gritty, it doesn't take itself too seriously. It's a bit tongue-in-cheek, it's very self-aware. And to be honest, if something was doom and gloom all the time and it was constantly very serious, it wouldn't be as fun to play, I feel. But I still haven't really answered the question, how were you able to improvise it beyond what I said already? Well, truth be told, the players are the one who drove the story forward. I just gave them any old bit of horse shit that I came up with and tried to think what would make sense here. And they ran along with it. They talk amongst themselves, and it gives you, me I should say, I'm saying you as in the Games Master, time to reflect and present things in their way, knowing the vague hits of the story, know how the main characters behave and whatnot, and any ones that you make up along the way. So honestly, it's not that difficult, I feel, especially with something like this. It's just, you listen to your players and then you give them what they want basically, or you give them curveballs if they don't do very well with rolls and whatnot. Because somebody got a nat 1 and was really fucked over by an attack, which is absolutely delightful. A nat 1 in this game is called a fumble. So that's really what makes a good games master, really, that they listen to their players all the way through and they just improvise and listen, you know, give them what they want and don't give them what they want, because it's not all about giving them, it's about giving them surprises as well. Which, as I said, I don't think is particularly difficult, but then again, I feel improvising and making shit up is something that I am very good at, which may or may not be helped that I've been telling stories to kids and things and my sibling for most of my life, and I also have a background in jazz, so I've been taught to improvise. But anyone can teach themselves to improvise, really. It's just a matter of just going on and doing it. And this isn't like a Dark Souls attitude of, oh, get good. Like, this is like, practice makes perfect. Get good. And it got to a point, like, towards the end, well, we'd actually wrapped up at this point, like, one of the players asked, so, what was actually this game that you ran? Did you make the whole thing up? It's like, no. And then they actually saw how little there was, and they were surprised, and the dad complimented my games mastering. And they've been playing since, like, first edition of D&D, which made me feel really good about myself, actually. Like, really, really good. Especially when it was, as I said, there was very little planning involved. Because I feel there's actually very little planning one can do. They can make up, a games master could set up all these story beats and whatnot, and then the players can just, like, totally ignore them. You wanted them to go right, they'll go left. So I don't really ever do much planning, I just write out notes to myself. But this time I didn't even do that. And I couldn't even hide behind a game screen because I don't have the board game screen. So my local game store didn't have those. That, I should say. Though, because of my little event, there was 10% off of any game purchases. So I bought myself IKHON, which is BORG's response to the Deck of Many Things, and a bunch of bisexual themed dice, because, you know, I'm bi as fuck, and I always like collecting dice. Well, I haven't always, but it's something that I've gotten more used to over time. I'm quite the dice hoarder now. Anyway, that's a little recap about last night's game. I hope that was somewhat interesting, because I've certainly enjoyed waffling away about it, and I hope that in there you managed to find something that helps you as well. And until next time, farewell.